Good afternoon, and thank you, Mandy, for that introduction. Today, we commend the Ontario Court of Appeal for today's decision to order a new trial for Peter Cahill, who killed Jonathan Styres, a young Haudenosaunee man and a Six Nations of the Grand River member. Today is an important first step on the road to justice for Mr. Styres, his family, and his community. Indigenous peoples' faith that the justice system was eroded by last year's not guilty verdict, knowing that the justice system recognizes that it did not achieve justice for Mr. Styres, is an indicator that we are on the right path. There is still a long and difficult journey ahead. We have seen time and time again the system fail our people. We acknowledge that there are many other families who are also looking for meaningful reform to the justice system, and we stand with them as well. Colton Boushie's family today again called for the justice by way of a United Nations Special Rapporteur in the criminal justice system and Indigenous people, in addition to an independent inquiry into the murder of Colton. Six Nations of the Grand River elected chief and council fully support these calls for justice. We hope that the new trial against Mr. Cahill will be fair and focused on justice. The stakes are too high to repeat the failures of the last one. We continue to stand with the Styres family in their pursuit of justice. No trial can undo the tragedy they have been living for the last 4 years. No one wins when a person's life is lost, and no one benefits when justice is lost. Today is Pink Shirt Day, and this year's slogan is Lift Each Other Up. And if we are going to salvage anything about reconciliation in this country, then we have to get this right. An integral part of reconciliation is truth. And we need to take a hard, honest look at the justice system in Canada and the injustice Indigenous peoples are continuously subject to. Today, I would like to welcome the widow of the late Mr. Styres, Lindsay Hill, to read her statement.
Thank you, Chief Hill. As the partner of the late Jonathan Styres and the mother of our beautiful daughters, Sophia and Zoe, I now still have some hope that John can get the justice he deserves. When I heard the decision, it felt like a weight had been lifted off of me. I am relieved to get some good news, especially after having to overcome everything that happened at the trial. Knowing that John's killer could still be held accountable for his actions in which he took John's life is an optimistic sign. This is not justice, but rather a step towards justice. Although the order of the new trial is good news, it does not guarantee the accountability of Peter Cahill's actions. We must still continue this important call for reform and overhaul of the Canadian justice system. I am very thankful that the Ontario Appeals Court sees that this was not a fair and lawful acquittal. Their demand for a new trial shows their understanding of the importance of addressing an agreement that the trial in which John's killer was acquitted was not fair. I would like to express my great appreciation to the Attorney General of Ontario, Deputy Director Susan Reid, and her team for all their work on the appeal. I will forever be grateful for their diligence and hard work. Yeah.
Today's decision sets aside Mr. Cahill's previous acquittal last year and sets the stage for our new trial. Mr. Cahill shot and killed an unarmed Mr. Styres with a shotgun on February 4th, 2016. Mr. Cahill pled self-defense, and a jury decided that Mr. Cahill acted reasonably when he confronted and killed Mr. Styres. After the previous court decision, Six Nations of the Grand River elected chief and council passed a banned council resolution banning Mr. Cahill from Six Nations for life. Styres was 29 years old at the time and the father of two beautiful young daughters. Six Nations of the Grand River is the most populated First Nation in Canada with more than 26,000 members. We are located just in the southwestern Ontario between Brantford, Caledonia, and Hagersville, And it is the only First Nation in North America wherein all 6 Haudenosaunee nations reside. Six Nations of Granville Elected Council is committed to building a strong, prosperous, and healthy community through key investments and community priorities, including all of the mentions above. For any other media inquiries, please contact Mandy Wesley, our Acting Senior Administrative Officer, at sao@sixnations.ca. We are now open for any questions or comments.
No, not at this time.
I think and I recognize this will be difficult, since the trial itself, you touch on it a little bit in your statement, but can you talk a little bit about what you, your daughters, and Mr. Styres' loved ones, what you've been living with, what you've been going through?
A very, very tough time. Words can't even really describe how tough it is. A lot of times I just have to take it one day at a time and, do the best I can to be a mother and provider for my children. Since the trial, it has gotten a little harder because my children are now getting older and they begin to ask more questions and talk about him more. So it's an ongoing thing. Comes and goes, but holidays, special times like that, particularly hard, but it's just, there are no words to explain how hard it is.
How old would your partner be today?
Today he would be 33. His birthday was in January.
What did it mean to you when you heard that the community had taken action to ban Peter Cahill from coming to Six Nations?
I think relief. At least I would know I would never have to see him in my own community again, or not again, but at all. And really extremely thankful that they were supportive of, my loss and being supportive of me and my family.
Has the community been banding together for you since this incident?
Do you mean when John was first killed?
Even like today, would you say that there's been this ongoing support for you?
Yes, but I feel like, it comes and goes, but there's always been good support here, yes.
Looking forward, I recognize you're not a lawyer, you're not in charge of that side of things, and this speak which you feel as well. Unless this goes to the Supreme Court, there will be a new trial, right? So is there anything that you want to see done differently if there's a new trial, or you think it needs to be highlighted or made a priority when that new trial happens?
I know jury selection is always an issue, and I felt like it was an issue at John's trial, and they're possibly, but I'm not really going to expand on that anymore. I'll leave it at that.
Is there anything that you want to say, Chief?
Well, I think it's important to understand as we sit here and stand with the other families who are also going through these tragedies that our justice system, the injustice that our peoples face. I think it's important that we, the call for the reform and overhaul is much needed, even more so today than ever. And I think in terms of, the advocacy work that my office and our team here on elected council can do to make sure we're advocating on best on behalf of Mr. Styres, Lindsay, their girls, the Bouchies, the Fontaines, the Gladews, to be able to have the justice that they deserve. I think that's imperative for our office to continue, that we can to continue to do the job that we're put in this position to do. I think the other piece that I also would like to mention in terms of the province of Ontario and in Bill 156 that was passed, or as looking to, the legislation of the use of force and the elimination of liability for injuries incurred on the property are troubling. To protect farmlands and to be able to say, again, there have been numerous instances of First Nations people being harmed and killed in this case especially. I think there must be a way to assist farmers while ensuring the health and safety of First Nations people amongst all people in this country and province of Ontario. So I think, those are other areas that, in terms of politically, we need to be advocating best on behalf of.
Has there been any resolution to the civil suit that was brought forward?
No, it's still ongoing. That's all I'm gonna say at this point in time about that.
What can First Nations people across the country learn from this, or how can they support you? Like, do you have a message to other First Nations people across the country?
I'll let you start, Lynn.
I feel that with everything I'm going through, like, there's such a bigger picture to it. I have such sorrow for, like, the Bushi family. I know a lot of them. They're not going to get to see any type of justice in in criminal charges. So I think just my message is that we can all work together and to try and make sure that more families don't have to continue to go through this, and that more families, well, hopefully not to have any victims, but that victims and families of those victims can get justice.
I think further to allude to Lindsay's comments, it's important and again imperative for leadership to also make this a priority from all parties. I think again that's the support that we've gained throughout the country, in that we continue to stand with the families like the Bushis, so that we can again be best supportive of each other while we're going through this difficult time. I think it's important for leadership in all parties to be making this a priority, and that we're talking about it.
Were either of you present today when the judge gave this decision?
No, I was notified yesterday that a decision had been reached and that it would be released today. As far as I know, they released the decision electronically to the lawyers.
And I've been just working closely with Lindsay, and she advised me last night that this decision was coming forward. Unfortunately, we weren't present at the time, which is why we've done this press conference.
What was the reaction from members of your family when they heard the news that he was going to be standing a new trial?
A sense of relief and like a little bit of like, yes, there's still that hope, the optimism and support.
Chief Hill, can you just comment on the reaction within the community to the news?
Well, and again, just to kind of reiterate, it's still having that hope, right? That at least we can look for justice once and for all. I think it's looking to see again how we can be best supportive of each other in this community during this time, and I think we're going to continue to be here for Lindsay and the Styres family, and I think that's what I've seen is that we have little hope.
How would you describe John?
Funny, loving. He had this way about him that he was like still really young at heart. And I know, like, I always think he was so like happy and proud to be a father, and just everything to me.
And I think, thank you for your patience and thank you for your time, everyone. We're gonna wrap that up there. And if you could please check in with one of our staff members before you leave, so we can just grab your contact information.
Thank you, Nyawa.
Nice meeting you.